Hello, my soccer universe. I'm Roland, and this is Football Talk. And yes, for a few days I have not recorded a podcast, but my attention has shifted towards the Women's Euros already. And it needed one team to do something a little bit remarkable, and that is Italy. An Italy team that has been underwhelming in the group stage overall, but they beat Norway, and suddenly I'm interested. I know they get ousted in the semi-finals, but Italy doing well. I'm a huge Italy fan, even though I'm from Austria. That always gets me going, and I have to say, these quarterfinals were actually really intriguing, and so many penalties missed. What's going on there? Except for the penalty shootout yesterday evening. But in this episode, I actually want to talk what has been happening in the group stage just a little bit. The Women's Euro has been a wild success. I mean, almost every game has been sold out. There was a lot of euphoria all over Switzerland, and I think this is really great for the women's game. Maybe the reason why I was not so much into it is because Austria failed to qualify, and Austria is at the moment in a major rebuilding mode. But the tournament itself actually gave us quite some nice action and teeny bit of surprises in there as well. So as I said, I want to review the group stage and then we'll go through the quarterfinals, what happened there, maybe have a little bit of a look forward as well. One thing that when you looked after the draw is that you saw that the groups were rather lopsided. You had groups A with rather small teams, and then you had, for instance, group D with three arguable favorites in there, at least two former winners, plus France, who are always a dangerous team. And actually France ended up winning the group. But let's go Group A. That was the hosts group, and the hosts had really high hopes of winning that group. But the story of that group became that despite all the goodwill coming from the general populace, that Switzerland actually really struggled to get through. They didn't deserve to lose to Norway in the opening game, or in their opening, the official opening game. The first game was, of course, Iceland against Finland. Finland actually winning that one, and Finland almost would have made it through. But Switzerland lost the first game, then they won against Iceland, and so they needed at least a point against Finland. But Finland were in the lead and needed a stoppage time and equalizer. Switzerland went through, albeit only in second place, as Norway had already secured the group win. Group B was all about Spain. Spain dominating their opposition. They opened up with a 5-0 over neighbors Portugal, followed up by 6-2 over Belgium, and then they also beat Italy 3-1. Italy, who needed a little bit help by Belgium, who they beat in the opening match, and they actually got that help as Belgium won against Portugal, and so Italy squeaked through in the second place, although they only played a 1-1 against Portugal. Group C was very early on clear that it will be Sweden and Germany dominating that group. Germany had a few troubles with injuries. Julia Gwynn came off and so on. So Germany really needed to find themselves. And after match day 2, Sweden, thanks to superior goal difference, were ahead of Germany. So Germany needed to beat Sweden. Took the lead, ended up losing 4-1, and the crisis at the 8-time Euros winner was kind of, again, how secure are we in this Germany team? Sweden, though, that was a real statement win, beating Germany by such a scoreline. And then in Group D, as I said, this was kind of the group of death, with newbie Wales thrown in there as well. Before I go there, I also want to mention Poland, actually. Also a newbie, got a win over Denmark in the last group game. Yes, Denmark didn't really have a chance of advancing anymore, unless, results would have fallen potentially their way. But I think it's rather remarkable that Poland beat Denmark, a Denmark team that 2017 was actually in the final of the Euros, so also a little bit of a surprise. The other newbie, Wales, never really stood a chance against this opposition, but it was France's win over England that created probably the most headlines. This was an early matchup, and everyone thought, are England really making it? They had to at least get a point, if not win, against the Netherlands. They did so emphatically, and so England was in a really good position already of moving on with the former winners. Not really having a great chance. Yes, they had a lead against France, but then they needed to push for more goals, and France just took them apart, winning 5-2, whereas England beat Wales 6-1. And so it is France and England who made it through to the quarterfinals. And it's the quarterfinals where I then really got into the tournament. Before I just followed it a little bit and just looked what was happening, but also reading that it's actually a really interesting, good tournament. I love the summer tournaments in women's football because they give you something else. So it's not at this high pace. There's a little bit more skill involved. Maybe you can see that sometimes the strength is missing if you compare it to the men's game, but it can be rather enjoyable. And there are some quirks in there, like a penalty in women's football, at least at these Euros, I don't want to say in general, is not necessarily a given. The playing field on one side is rather lopsided because there are a few teams that have so much talent. I'm looking at you, Spain. But then on the other side, I think you can rather quickly build a really good group as well. So that makes it really exciting to me. And Italy have had a women's team for a long time. It was always overlooked, whereas Norway has been a force from the beginning, although at the moment a little bit a waning force. And so those two met. Honestly, I didn't really think that Italy should be considered the favorites, although something's growing there. But Girelli gave Italy the lead already in the 50th minute. Then penalty was given away, clear penalty that Ada Hegerberg pulled wide. However, then she just 5 minutes later manages the equalizer, and then the game kind of petered out until again Girelli shows up and guides the ball into the net. 90th minute. That was Girelli shows up. That was not an easy part to pronounce for me. I'm sorry for that. So Italy through. I'm already ecstatic. That's not something I expected from the Azzurre, and it's probably also the ceiling for them, as they were to meet the winner of Sweden against England, one of the crazier quarterfinals. But I would argue not the craziest one, although we'll see. Sweden, dominant. Took the lead through a line in the second minute already. Blackstenius doubles up the lead in the 25th, and there were the chances to get a third, if not a fourth, if that would have come in. England were hanging on, and Sweden seemed very much in control. Yes, there were the occasional chances for England in there, but I really felt that this Sweden will not let go. And then Chloe Kelly had come on, whips in a cross, and Lucy Bronze on the other side heads one in, and then it's a melee just 2 minutes later in the Swedish box, and Ajemang, totally against the run of play, gets the equalizer for England. Both teams could have won it then, and then it became a real slog. Yes, it was destined for penalties, to be honest, as well. But yeah, Sweden kind of let this go, and this also showed in the penalty shootout. A penalty shootout that took 14 penalties. Only 5 of them were converted. I mean, an absolute mad shootout. And it was England going first with Russo converting, and then even Angeldal failing to convert, but then James misses. Zigotti gets the equalizer. Mead, Eriksson, Greenwood all miss. Björn puts Sweden ahead, so it's Chloe Kelly who needs to convert, otherwise Sweden are already through. He does so, and then Falk, who is saving 4 penalties, sees her penalty saved as well. And so it goes on until Lucy Bronze converts, and then Holmberg, an 18-year-old who became the youngest goal scorer for Sweden during these Euros, sees her penalty saved. England, by the skin of their teeth, are through. It was not a convincing win, however, England are through. And facing Italy, you will always favor England in that one, so they will have a good chance to defend their title. However, the big favorites have to be Spain, but they also had some penalty woes. An early penalty given away by Switzerland. Caldente sees the penalty saved, or was it wide? I don't recall anymore. It all blurs together. Meanwhile, Spain were dominant. However, Switzerland kept it quite tight and of course buoyed by the crowd. But in the second half it was then Spain when they really went serious, and then Del Castillo, after Bonmati assist, gives Spain the lead, and Pina with a wonderful shot in the 71st minute makes it 2-0. Another penalty then given away for Spain, and Putellas fails to convert it. The superstar, or former superstar. So I found this rather weird. I think the 4-0 for Spain will probably have reflected the game quite well. But on the other side, it was great that Switzerland got not outclassed in their home tournament and actually made a good showing. I mean, they kept Spain at bay like almost no other team had managed so far. But the Spain side is full of talent and probably the most fun side to watch during these Euros. And then we had yesterday evening's game between France and Germany. And can I just say how perfectly placed this game was in Basel? a border city in Switzerland, sitting on the border with France and Germany. There's actually a bridge here where you can walk from France into Germany. That is just, a stone's throw away from Basel as well. And the game seemingly took a turn in favor of France, who have been the favorites. I mean, given the troubles that Germany showed against Sweden, it was absolutely clear that Germany should be considered underdogs, although ahead of the tournament you would have favored Germany there. Hendrich pulls a French attacker on the hair. It's a clear red card, although she didn't really see it this way, which on one side I don't understand. On the other side, probably she thought she got the shirt, but a shirt doesn't pull like that. Was really weird. It was a clear red card. It needed VAR for that. And Galore then steps up and converts the penalty with some luck, it also has to be said, as goalie Berger got a hand on it. And then you thought, France, a woman more and 1-0 up, they should see this out easily. And can I just say, I really like that French jerseys as well. I mean, I always like French jerseys, to be honest. But after a bull corner, Nüskens then gets the equalizer in the 25th minute. And you could already see that Germany were actually really hanging in, defending in the 4-1. And France had no idea how to break them down. They tried the same way over and over again. There was no change up in pace, there was no change up in style. It was all individual efforts. True, Cascarino seemingly had given France a lead with a beautiful backheeled goal. How she was just with the tip of the toe in an offside position, so the luck did not go their way there as well. Then you thought that around the 60th minute, France were really exerting tons of pressure on the German goal. You thought it's just a matter of time, and then get also the go-ahead goal. Guerrero again hammers it in after a brilliant save before, but was another play in offside position, obstruction of goalie Berger, and so the goal again was chalked off. Huge boost for Germany, but it was then duly reversed because France gave away a penalty. So Germany, with a woman less, has the big chance to take the lead. However, Nüskens sees her effort saved in the 69th minute. The rest, same thing. Whatever France were changing in personnel, it did not change their style. They barely created chances. They didn't have a chance really to break Germany down, despite all the pressure and all the possession. But Germany happily ceded that and actually really got into a siege mentality that actually pulled them through. It went, of course, to overtime, where the biggest thing was that we saw almost an own goal that Berger then saves just off the line in the first half of the overtime period. But it was pretty clear that this is gonna go to a penalty shootout. And if you know one thing, Germans and penalty shootouts, that's always something that will go in the favor of the Germans. And yes, it needed also 14 penalties. Marjorie, who had come on, missed the first one for France. She was going second, Germany was going first. However, Debritz then puts her penalty onto the crossbar. It was the fourth penalty. And so Baltimore could equalize. Then goalie Berger converts hers, almost saved. And I think if this one goes away, then France win it. Of course it is, but I think this was a big momentum swing. She needed to convert because then Germany will always have the advantage of going first. And Clara Bühl and Nüsken both convert. Yes, Jean-François Ndongala both convert their penalties expertly. However, then Sombat sees her saved by Berger, and Germany get a very unlikely victory. You might say, did it really matter who moves on? Well, I mean, you're playing Spain, so you get the honor of losing to Spain. But this German team, I think this was really good for the group. However, injury woes, I think they lost another 2 players due to injury in that game. I don't know how long they will be out. And of course the red card. So I think this will be a much labored Germany side that will have to face the force of the tournament so far. So if we look ahead to the semifinals, the first one should be a rather one-sided affair between England and Italy. That will happen on Tuesday. Whereas Spain and Germany, ahead of the tournament, you could have even said this is a very likely final. So that might be an interesting one. I still would largely favor Spain. I actually pulled the numbers in my model, and my model actually says that Spain are now the favorites. Second favorites are Germany. Germany would be favored over England in the final. I don't quite see it. I think we'll get a replay of the World Cup final between Spain and England. And then let's see who wins. If that Spanish team pulls off another trophy in that same jersey that the men have been wearing in the Euros last year. In any case, I have to say, while it took me a while to get into it, and yes, you can only put attention here and there, that quarterfinal was really gripping, and I'm looking forward to the semis and the final as well. At that point, also the Austrian Bundesliga season will already have started. But yeah, watch the Women's Euros. It's a fun tournament. Highly can recommend it. I had a lot of fun. I hope you had a lot of fun with this video as well. So that's it from Football Talk for today. If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe on YouTube and also use the RSS link below. As I said, I'm already on Apple and I'm on Spotify. And yeah, I still have to sit down and figure out the other ones as well. But until next time, stay safe and keep watching the beautiful game. Bye.